So I am so happy to get us started here today. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Thank you all for coming to our Know It All event. That is our program where we have speakers come and we have a kind of question and answer discussion about a relevant topic. My name is Stacy. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm here today with matching hair and shirt that was not intentional. So I have a kind of purple striped button-down collared shirt, and I kind of have a purple and white hairdo. So a white woman with a white background with a couple of little tchotchke type things behind me. And also closed captioning is available for those who can benefit from that. At Inform Your Community, we offer events that provide important information with some fun. We always say fun first, information second. So we like to amp up the fun. Our speaker series, then we try to amp up examples and kind of insights about the topic we're talking about. Our social media links are at the bottom of our website at www.informyourcommunity.com. And we encourage you to check those out, follow us, or you can watch our—
Sorry to interrupt, .org, not .com.
Thank you, Steve. And so we have Tyler as a tech person. The sole reason Tyler is here is to correct my technical gaps. So thank you, Tyler. I appreciate it. So www.informyourcommunity.org. So if you also go check out our past event videos on YouTube, we've covered all kinds of different topics, and we encourage you to check out our videos there. While you're there, feel free to subscribe, throw some comments up there. We appreciate it, and certainly share all our materials so that more people can be informed. If you're watching a recording of this, also feel free to like this and subscribe as well. So AI is a really important topic for very, very many reasons, not the least of which is that although we probably don't even know it, all of us come into contact with AI, if not every day, certainly most of our days. So it really is something that's affecting us, and we really have little idea of the vast number of ways that is affecting us. Also, it's expected that about $16 trillion of kind of added to our economy will happen by 2030. So 16 trillion will be added to our economy because of AI in just the next 5 years or so. So it really is the future, as we were kind of joking about earlier. So this event is part of our Know It All series. And in that we have speakers, and we're grateful for all of our speakers here today. And I'm looking forward to telling you more about them. We also have Tyler here to help us with our tech. And throughout the discussion, if you have questions, comments that you want to add, feel free to throw those in the chat or raise your hand. Let us know. So without further ado, I want to tell you about our four wonderful presenters today, or speakers. Our Sanae Elmoudden is an associate professor and assistant chair at St. John's University. She is also co-editor of an upcoming book. When is it coming out? Oh, you're muted. Sorry, Sanae. I threw you a curveball there. Coming out soon.
February, yes.
February. So it's coming out just next month, titled The Role of Generative AI in the Communication Classroom. So we're happy to have Sanae here. Carie Garippa is here. So I welcome Carie as well. Chemistry and engineering teacher, winner of a service grant from the Foundation of Bethlehem. So excited about that for you. And it's using engineering to help the local community. And she's at Freedom High School and in the Bethlehem School District in Pennsylvania. We have Peter S. Park here with us today as well. So thank you for coming, Peter. And Peter is the Vitalik Buterin Postdoctoral Fellow in AI Existential Safety at MIT. Try to say that 5 times fast. And he is also director at StakeOut.AI, which I'm sure he's going to have some more information about later. So thank you. David Rubenstein is chair in constitutional law and director of the Robert J. Dole Center of Law and Government at Washburn University. Thank you for coming as well. So many great insights. I'm very excited about this. I I don't think even AI could have hallucinated such a wonderful panel of presenters as we have here today. So we're very honored to have you all here. And for those of you who don't know, AI hallucination in AI is very similar to hallucination for people. It's when AI kind of creates some piece of information or maybe an image out of patterns or objects that don't actually exist, or that at least are imperceptible to humans. So, but we are definitely not hallucinating here. This is an excellent panel. So thank you all for coming and for joining us. Without further ado, I would love to hear our presenters introduce themselves briefly and let us know kind of what is your professional experience related to AI? How did you kind of come into this space that is so relatively new? Jump right in. Don't be shy.
All right, I'll
Okay,
go
I think,
first.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to go?
No, it's fine.
But I am a high school educator, and so my experience with AI comes from both ends, where I am learning to use it as a classroom tool to make my classroom better, make learning more exciting, more engaging, more relevant to students who are software engineers all in their own. And I'm also the policeman in my classroom for all the AI sneaky stuff that happens.
Excellent. Why don't we throw it now to Sanae? I'll call you guys out. Thank you, Carie, for going first.
Sure, yeah. I think I have more of a personal relationship with AI. When ChatGPT just came in November, it kind of instantly became my best friend. So it became like some sort of a companion that I started like learning how to deal with it and how it behaves, etc. Back in the good old days, before I became a professor, I was actually in computer science and telecommunication, and I worked with things like ACD and voice exchange. So that's where I came from the background. And now as a professor, I have the same issues like Carie was talking about, trying to incorporate it in the classroom, which I did a few times actually, and try to see how they can use it ethically, quote unquote. Although I refrain, I look at it from a different perspective rather than policing. So I'm not interested in the policing of the students. I do have it's older generations, so perhaps there is that. This is said, a lot of professors are into policing students with AI. I believe we are in this together, and both students and professors or academics need to work together with AI to achieve a different outcome rather than antagonize and make professors against students or things like that. So that's how I come from it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Peter, I wonder if you're not on the opposite end of that.
So yeah, I got into AI actually quite later than you might expect. So I was a PhD student at Harvard studying human cognition, not AI cognition. So I still study human cognition too, but it was exclusively human cognition for most of my PhD career. It was in the year 2022 when I saw the DALL-E and the DALL-E 2 models released by OpenAI that I became aware that this was going to the capabilities of AI are going to improve quite rapidly, and that is going to be very important for us, for humanity, to make sure AI go well for humans. And of course, there's a lot of work that could be done on this front that was not being done because there's not enough people working in it. So that was when I became convinced that even though my PhD research was in human cognition, I should also look into AI and become a cognitive scientist of both domains and how they interact and how AI interacts with human society. So that was like how I got into AI, and that was around like April of 2022. And I would say 2 months later, I attended the Stanford Existential Risk Initiative's ML Alignment Theory Scholars Program, which is a summer research type of program that was very impactful for me because it rapidly caught me up to like the current state of the AI landscape. By the way, the AI landscape changes very, very fast. So if you blink, you miss solid developments. That's right. So if there's one thing you take away from my portion of this talk, please, that's a very important. So I did summer research type of program. Then I came back to Harvard to finish my thesis and then graduate. And it was November 2022, November 30th, in fact, of 2022, when ChatGPT was released, and there was a wide publicity of it, and that was probably when a lot of attention and investor frenzy into AI development really started. It was there before, but that was when it really exploded. So then, now a lot more people are having the same concerns as the Prussian academics, some of my colleagues had, and who convinced me into working on this instead of just 100% human cognition research. So now, there's a lot more people who share these concerns, which is great. Then after I graduated from the Harvard PhD program, I became MIT Professor Max Tegmark's postdoc with the postdoctoral fellowship that Stacy mentioned. Professor Max Tegmark is one of Time's 100 most influential people in AI. So he's very big in both the research and the nonprofit work on the AI safety side. So I'm extremely honored to I'm continuing to work with him, but I'm extremely honored to work with him in many different ways. And yeah, so that is my MIT postdoctoral, the AI Existential Safety Postdoctoral Fellowship. And the other job that I have two jobs. The one job is that, and the second job is as the co-founder of the nonprofit StakeOut.AI, which is an AI safety nonprofit that aims to raise awareness about the threat that advanced AI poses to people's livelihoods in addition to their safety. So people losing their jobs, this is not a hypothetical anymore, because you have digital artists having a very tough time, because in 2022, the art models like DALL-E and DALL-E 2, but also the Midjourney models of then, they were like, if we go back to a time machine and we went back 1 year in time and we saw those AI generated art images, we would have been like, wow, this is so bad compared to the 2023, 2024 AI art models. So artists, some of them were like, oh, this is only going to get better. Others were like, right now humans are way better at art. This is probably going to blow off. And if you fast forward to now, a lot of digital artists are having a very tough economic outlook, because these AI art companies, they train their models on the hard work, the copyrighted art data that these artists poured their heart and soul into without their consent, which is why their AI models are very good at art today and are arguably significantly outcompeting the human artists in the marketplace. So this is not a hypothetical, which is why we at StakeOut.AI, along with my co-founders, Amy Frieder, who's here, and Harry Luck, we felt like it was important to have, have a nonprofit really raise the voice on the unemployment, the livelihoods aspect of the AI safety debate, in addition to the safety part. So that is our nonprofit StakeOut.AI. And yeah, that was my very, I'm sorry I could have kept it shorter, but yeah, that's it.
It's okay. Actually, you make such a great segue to introduce David, but I have to take just a second because I have Midjourney magazine here. So these are just some examples of some, kind of AI generated imaging. And when you think about what Peter just said, for those of you who are not kind of experienced with these AI generated images and how advanced they've gotten, you can kind of see from these
Absolutely.
where it's at now comparatively. But you put us in a great position to talk to David, who is here to not only tell us how terrifying I'm sure it is that the landscape changes constantly as a person who studies law and teaches law, but also who can tell us like what are these roadblocks, and I mean, what are we doing to kind of counteract what Peter's telling us is going on. But David, tell us more about yourself and what you do and how you came into this space.
Sure. Thank you so much. This is a real honor and a treat to be here. I'm really curious, and we didn't really have an opportunity to meet the co-panelists, but I'm so intrigued by all the backgrounds and the perspectives that everybody's bringing to this conversation. So I'm looking forward to it. I got involved with artificial intelligence in late 2020. And my work is focused at the intersection of artificial intelligence and policy. So questions about regulation of artificial intelligence, or as the case may be, maybe not regulating AI, some of the policy debates, not only domestically, but also globally, and at many different levels, at the city level, state level, national level. So there's a lot that sort of falls within my wheelhouse in terms of what my interests are. I teach a class called AI and the Law. And just in terms of how much things have changed just in the last, I would say, year and a half, I started teaching this class a couple years ago before the release of ChatGPT. And at the time, it was sort of like a niche, kind of a fun thing to offer to students. And during the first semester, at the very end, is when ChatGPT gets released, as Peter said, on the very end of 2022, and it has just been like drinking out of a water hose, a fire hose, I should say, ever since then. With the amount of information and the amount of movement in the space is simply incredible. One of the things, in addition to teaching and researching in this field, that may be of interest and sort of has some parallels to other people on the panel, but also I noticed also in the audience who have chimed in, is I'm also heading up an AI committee at the law school, and I'm also serving at the university level, because we have to come up with policies now for the use of artificial intelligence in legal education and education more generally. And so it is a very challenging thing to come up with a set of policies when we're not at all sure where the ethics are going in this field, because, there's clear benefits for using this technology in the legal profession. But at the same time, we're not sure how this is going to interact with professionalism and the identity of lawyers. And so we're trying to grapple with all of that, and it's very much shooting at a moving target. My faculty, and I'm sure this is true in many faculties, there's very few people that really have a handle on what's going on. And in many cases, our students will know more about how to use the technology than the professors even do. And so it's very important that we get up to speed as quickly as possible. But it's a challenge because it's moving so quickly. And, so anyway, we'll have lots to talk about, but this is some of the perspectives that I could bring to the conversation.
It's great. Excellent point about that moving target. I'm kind of two themes already coming out of this. One is that it is a moving target. We don't know what's happening and it's changing rapidly. And also another theme that I'm seeing in the panelists here, I'm sure it's true across the world, is this is a new area. So you folks are kind of fallen into your roles in some sense. You were curious to do it, it seems, and then suddenly now you've got a whole new field ahead of you that you're now at the forefront of. So congratulations, and I'm sorry for that. I'm sure it's, a catch-22. Marge in the chat said that she's a community college teacher, and she agrees with Sanae. She said, I think it's a tool that students need to learn how to use effectively, which includes knowing its limitations. I think that's kind of a theme that's coming out, this idea of like collaborating to figure out how this is going to work best for everyone, because it's not going away anytime soon. But Sanae, I'm going to throw it back at you and ask you, what is AI? How do you define it? You've got the book coming out. How do you define AI?
Well, I actually asked ChatGPT, if you are to define AI to a 5-year-old, how would you do this? Because I think it's there are people in the panel who are more actually suitable to define AI for us, given that their background are in computer science and things like that. From my perspective, I am within the communication discipline, and the research that I have done, anything that is basically some sort of intelligence that mimic our intelligence in order to do different tasks that we are capable as humans to do in different, like cognitively, and that's in mimicking ways, right? So there are people who would argue that there is, when you're chatting with ChatGPT, for instance, or others, there's some sort of empathy that is being mimicked, right? The way that when you chat, there's some sort of politeness that exceeds the limits sometimes when you chat with these things. So, but the focus, it's more about the intelligence itself and how it's able to mimic us. Now, I heard what's his name? It's Sam Altman from in an interview recently that he has done. He and Mira, he's the CFO, I think, of OpenAI, and they were talking about intelligence with AI and how CTO, thank you, and how the intelligence that we know about ourselves may not be the intelligence that we will see in the future AI. So if I specifically talk about generative AI, they're talking in the interview, they talked about how they're trying to move from generative AI to actually AGI, which stands for artificial general intelligence, which not only will mimic our intelligence, but somehow will reason. So in a way, now just collection of data, but later on it will actually have the capability of reasoning. So, and this is another theme that I don't know if we're gonna go to it or not, which becomes in a way a little bit scary when you think about it from that perspective. And I'm just gonna end with this anecdote. Recently, they had in June, I think in June, there was the Global Summit for AI, and they had Sophia. And those of you who are not familiar with Sophia, she's a robot, humanoid robot, who is actually has been around for a few years now, and she has been giving interviews in different places. In the summit, she actually notice I am using the word she. She does look like a she, etc. But anyways, she said that AI should be the leaders of the world because AI, unlike humans, they don't have to deal with the emotional baggage, and therefore they can make decisions 24/7 and swiftly. And that's one of the reasons it should be, like in leadership. Having said that, there is leadership right now in AI. There's a principal in one of the UK colleges who's being trained write for that private school actually. And there is also another CEO for a Colombian coffee company, and it's used for decisions in a very quick, swift, 24/7 way. So I mean, I know this is a long definition, but I guess I am bringing into it some of the worries that I have, but also I'm sure so many of us do have those worries along. So thank you.
All great examples. I actually want to hear, because I know when Sanae and I have talked before, we've talked about all these funny conversations you've had with the AI. And I know you said, I forget her name already, that the robot, Sharon? No.
Sophia.
Sophia said, you know, because they don't have emotion, but you also talked about how AI mimics emotion. Can you think of an example? If not now, I can give you some time and circle back to you of when you've had a conversation where with AI that it actually has kind of mimicked that emotion or shown some kind of empathy. Can you think of anything offhand? You want some time?
Sure, I can just quickly say, because I don't want to take most of the time here, but I do. When I was trying to test ChatGPT, for instance, I had many conversations with it, and a few times it would not give me the outcome that I wanted because I confused it in some ways. I think, or my prompts were not the right way to get the right outcome. So I would say things like, "What are you doing here? Like, why are you not giving me the right answers?" And it would say things like, "Oh, I am so sorry. Let me try again. Is this any better for you?" Or at some point, I talked to it about how it's going to take our jobs away, professors' jobs away, because it's doing everything. And I said, you do it all now, don't you? So, and he said, no, I'm so sorry. I'm not taking anybody's job. I'm here to help you out. And I really want to collaborate with you. You know, so it makes it sound like it's your buddy, you know? So that's why I used the word companionship at the beginning, even though I know that it's not the right word, but in some ways it is in that way, you know, like that it mimics ways that we talk and we behave in some ways. I mean, I am talking about it like a human being with sentience and consciousness. I do realize it does not have any of that right now, but I am afraid it will get there at some point. So correct me, please, for those of you who are in the computer department and know a little bit more than I do in this domain. Please do ease my worries.
Anybody want to speak to that? David, did you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. I'll just jump in a little bit to make a couple of points. The first point is that even defining artificial intelligence is a contentious issue. That's number one. And then you would wonder, well, why is it so contentious, or what is the dissensus about? And there's many reasons, right? The first reason is that artificial intelligence has evolved over time. You know, it began, I suppose, in its, you know, modern history back in the 1950s. And through different iterations and advancements in technology and computing power, the infrastructure, the architecture, as well as the capabilities of the models have changed. So like things that we might have considered artificial intelligence in the past, like including a calculator, we no longer even think about as artificial intelligence anymore. So that's just an interesting historical artifact. And the other thing is that the way that we define artificial intelligence, certainly in policy debates, could have a lot of significant implications for how the technology is regulated. So, for example, if you are defining what is artificial intelligence for purposes of deciding what types of rights or duties and liabilities will attach to this technology, then how you define it brings the law either into scope or keeps the law from not applying to the technology. That's another reason. But so in addition to that, there are economic incentives to want to define artificial intelligence in certain ways, right? Because, even things that maybe are not artificial intelligence, or it's like you hear about even for like Cruise or some of these, these very notorious AI companies, there's humans, like quite literally like Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, like steering the cars or performing some of the work that is essentially artificial intelligence because there's some financial interest. Everything now is pitched as artificial intelligence because that's where the investment dollars are going. And another reason is that artificial intelligence ultimately is about power. In much the same way that information is power, artificial intelligence is about power. To understand what so much of the conflict is between the United States and China, just for example, about semiconductors and chips in Taiwan, it's all about artificial intelligence. Because those are the chips that are going to be running the state-of-the-art technology. And so, once you appreciate that artificial intelligence is about power, then immediately you could see how different ideologies can seep into how you define it in the first place. And the last thing I'll say about the definition of AI, I'll say two more things. One other thing I'll say about artificial intelligence is that it is multidisciplinary. So, for example, we have Peter on this call who's doing cognitive, for humans, and that's relevant. So is philosophy, and so is economics, and so is the law, right? And so is sociology, and so is communications. And so is marketing. So because of the because of the multidisciplinarity of the technology, different people have different conceptions of how it should be defined and why. But before I move on, I just want to add something that was sort of maybe not mentioned explicitly in the former comments, which is that the modern AI systems are really what's powering them is something called machine learning. And what makes this version of artificial intelligence different than more conventional software computing is that the modern AI systems are trained on data. Are very data-driven, whereas the older technologies like TurboTax were a series of like if-then coded by humans information about how to resolve particular problems. And now the way that machine learning intelligences are trained is based on huge volumes of data. And basically the algorithms are learning patterns from the data to essentially make predictions. So one way to understand machine learning technologies is that they're prediction machines. What they do is they make predictions. They predict, for example, who's going to click on a technology or click on a link, or who's going to commit a crime, or who's going to pay back a loan. And in the case of generative AI, which is another category of AI, it's quite literally predicting what the next word should be in a sentence. And in the case of AI art generators, it's predicting what the next pixel should be in a picture. But it's big. These systems are trained on huge amounts of data, essentially to create a model of whatever it's trying to model in the world. And the outputs, when it's deployed, is a prediction. And because so much of human decision-making, including communication, but also all kinds of decision-making are based in part on judgment and predictions. This is why the artificial intelligence is such an important and also transformative technology, is because this is the type of work that humans and only humans could do, at least, at the level that, to take animals out of it. This is what we do. And to the extent that computers can now make predictions and judgments perhaps faster and perhaps better than humans, this is what the threat is, potential threat is, not to just, all jobs, but especially even to knowledge workers and to the, you know, professional classes in a way that technology of the past really were not a threat.
I have to, before I let anybody else talk, I have something very selfishly I wanna ask is corporations are individuals in law, I think, right? In some laws, corporations count as in, so couldn't AI count as people, as individuals?
Well, they are, but one way to think about it is that corporations are entities, and they are recognized in the law, and they have certain rights, they have certain liabilities, but they don't have all of the rights and liabilities of humans. And so one of the very interesting discussions that I think is still, we're still a little bit ahead of the time, but it's going to happen relatively soon, is thinking about algorithmic systems as independent agents that could have rights and duties, right? And like in the same way that humans do. But you know, very important research and writing in this area, Ryan Abbott, he's an author, and you know, and others make the point that to recognize robot rights or to recognize AI systems as entities, it need not be an all or nothing. It need not have all the rights and liabilities of humans, in much the same way that corporations are recognized and have rights and liabilities, but still we don't treat them as humans for all purposes. But of course, like which rights, which liabilities, and for what reason would we even want to ascribe rights to these systems, whether for economic or maybe for moral or philosophical reasons? You know, if and when AI systems are sentient, perhaps it would be immoral not to give rights to these entities. Right. But until that's the case, then the reason for giving rights is probably more about liability and business models and economics.
Right, and power, like you were saying before.
Power.
So I want to throw it actually back to Carie for a second, because all this sounds so very, very complicated. And here you are dealing with students who this is like their first time checking out this technology. And how do you even go about like understanding where they're at with it and introducing it? And I notice we do have a hand in the chat, so I'll get to you in a minute. But Carie, could you tell us, like, how do you deal with the students with this?
You know,
Where are they at?
It's like any other tool that we've seen come into the classroom in the last 15 years, right? We saw this influx of cell phones, and then it was influx of everyone has a Chromebook or an iPad. And so it just becomes responsible use within the classroom. That being said, one of the best tools that I do is I do introduce it into the curriculum. I have them using it for tasks that AI can be useful for. So taking something that's very bland, something that's they have to learn it, but there's no real good way to make it creative, and having AI help them make it creative. Have AI help create a study guide, act like a tutor. You know, it's teenagers, and if you bring something in and make it mandatory, it's no longer as much fun. But there's also a level of, and you know, I get what you're saying at the higher level where you're really bringing in and having them using it. In the high school level, we have to be a little more cautious because we are providing them the foundation they need to move on to higher level. So we need to know that they're getting that content. And so there's a level of taking a step back, and as ridiculous as this sounds, going back to paper to make sure that we can hit mastery. I know, but we're doing it because we want them to know the content, learn it with AI, use AI to help learn the content, but then be able to show and demonstrate mastery. And sometimes the only way you can really do that is to kind of take a step back and remove that technology. There's a lot of different ways that we're approaching it. And I'll say this, because I have to work this in, because anyone that's an educator that just happens to be on here knows the struggle with reaching every student in the classroom. And AI has gifted educators with that ability to modify your curriculum in ways that you can get every student engaged and on board. And that's a gift, but at the same time, we have to stay on guard. And there's all kinds of sneaky ways that teachers are doing it. You know, they'll like insert ridiculous comments, but they kept the text white so that if the kids copy paste it into AI, it inserts it into their response. Things like that. But we're not saying don't use it, but it opens up communication to say, okay, now this is how you're not using it responsibly.
What's the funniest thing you've seen a student do with AI?
One of the most boring things that we have to do in high school chemistry is talk about historical scientists in chemistry. No one enjoys it. I don't enjoy it. And so this year, what I had them do is they had to pick some genre and they had to create some story about the scientists they were assigned. And they had certain amount of things they had to get in there, like research models, blah, blah, blah. And I had we're all adults, right? I had a student create an erotic novel AI generated between two. And yeah, I couldn't share that with the class, but it was really interesting for me.
That's an interesting choice. Definitely an interesting choice. Well, thank you for sharing that. That must have been a fun read and a conversation over dinner with your loved ones. You know what happened at school today? And I wanted to mention, so Pat in the chat said, indeed, the future is now. I think we real humans need to it's amazing. Sorry, I just have to pause to say that was marked. Humans was marked as real humans. Let's just all take that in for a moment, right? As opposed to fake humans. Wow. Okay, so I think I appreciate that, Pat. I think we real humans need to remember that these are not humans and are strongly resist getting caught up in the emotion of engagement with AI robots that clearly are being designed to woo us into complacency and a human-like relationship. So kind of the more palatable having interactions with them is, the easier it is, then maybe we don't notice what's going on as much with the technology. It's a very interesting point. And I know Jessica had a comment as well. Jessica, can you share or comment or a question?
Yeah, I have a question. And like, if you can't hold somebody liable, I think this is for David, and it kind of came before what Carie said. If the AI is liable, and if you're not, if a person's not liable, then like, who's held responsible? The company, the entity that made it. I mean, and like, is AI going to be performing surgery? Are they going to be lawyers and therapists and doctors? And then where we fit in this whole human species fit in? You know, there's like really big questions.
You make me wonder, Jessica, so who do we sue if there's malpractice with AI? I think it's part of that. David, do you want to take that? And then I promise, Peter, we'll get you.
Yeah, Peter, I know can speak to this. I'll just quickly say that this is one of the big issues right now. Let's put aside the idea that I mentioned earlier, which I said is still many probably years away. I mean, we haven't even gotten our hands around the easier question of like who to hold liable and how under our current laws and our current system,
Right.
where the accountability trails really run dark because there's so many different parties that are involved in the design, development, deployment of these AI systems, now many of which are open source. And let's say even if it, harm occurs in a malpractice, whether medical or legal, who's responsible and to what extent, because we don't have standards and norms really around the types of harms, especially when they're not intentional harms, because our laws were not written with AI in mind. And many of our laws are written with some form of intentionality in mind, and there really often is not intentionality when harm occurs, right? So then when you add the element of giving rights or offloading not just decisions but also liabilities to AI, the reason that's a very difficult proposition, it's already a difficult proposition, I think, with corporations. But think about, I mean, what kind of deterrence does it have to hold an AI liable if it could just like reproduce itself? Or like, I don't even know, I can't even get my head around what it would mean to not hold humans responsible, but only to hold robots or AIs responsible.
Right.
You know, like, I don't even know, like, it's just hard to get my arms around that. And so, but so right now I'm focusing on the more immediate questions because they are coming up increasingly about, you know, how do our current laws or what do our current laws say, if anything, about things like liability and accountability? And the fact that there are so many questions begins to explain why there's like hundreds of laws or bills that are pending across the country and states and in Washington, D.C. is because we have all of these unanswered questions.
Thank you. And Peter, did you want to add anything or take us onward?
That was a really great no, that was a really great explanation by David. I'll try my best to follow it. I mean, yeah, I completely agree with everything David said. I guess I will add that an additional reason to think that this is going to come to us and we should be prepared for it is that even though it hasn't happened yet, the goal is to create highly autonomous AI systems that can outperform humans at most economically valuable work. In fact, this is OpenAI's mission on their charter. If you look at the charter, they say their mission is to create highly autonomous systems that outperform humans at most economically valuable work. So part of being a human cognitive scientist is, being also an evolutionary biologist, because evolutionary biology of humans is very important for the study of human cognition. And if I put on my evolutionary biology hat and I hear that, the first thing I hear is successor species. Like, wow, like, we could, just like Homo sapiens somehow replaced Neanderthals. So we don't know that somehow part. The archaeological evidence is very lacking. But it's not guaranteed that it was peaceful. Let's just say that. And when I hear you have a very, very well-moneyed company, I guess technically owned by a nonprofit, in theory at least, but when you have a very, very big tech company with a mission to achieve this, and the controllability problem of AI has not been solved yet. All the leading experts in the world without a conflict of interest, or at least a lot of them, are saying that the controllability issues are far from being solved. And when you have let me bring up this other quote. When you have the first ever advisor to DeepMind, which is now Google DeepMind, which is another company that's trying to create highly autonomous systems that can outperform humans at most capabilities, most economically relevant capabilities, is Professor Rich Sutton, who's a rock star professor. He literally wrote the textbook on reinforcement learning of AI. And this is my very long answer to Pat Franklin's comment here. Professor Sutton, this is something, he gave a talk at the World Artificial Intelligence Conference in Shanghai. This was a real academic talk at a real academic conference, in which he said this quote: "Rather quickly, they," meaning the AI systems, "would displace us from existence. It behooves us to give them every advantage and to bow out when we can no longer contribute." Then later he says, "I don't think we should fear succession. I think we should not resist it. We should embrace it and prepare for it. Why would we want greater beings, greater AIs, more intelligent beings kept subservient to us?" And this is not just a crazy person. This is Professor Rich Sutton, who literally wrote the textbook on a very important subfield of AI, and who was the first ever advisor of DeepMind, now Google DeepMind, saying this at an actual AI conference, a World Artificial Intelligence Conference in Shanghai. After which he said, "By the way, here is my concrete research plan called the Alberta Plan for AI research." Then he said, "Please fund me." And someone funded him after the talk. He got a funding partner, Keen Technologies, onboarded him as a partnership. And when I see all this, I think the most, I would say, I can't exactly predict how it will happen, but it does seem like you have a lot of very, very rich companies and a lot of very, very smart people, are working towards this, highly autonomous systems that outperform humans at most economically valuable work. And I think academics and nonprofit people such as myself and my colleagues and my co-founders, we really want to get the preparation level for our society and our country and our humanity to be at a high enough level so that when this hits us, we'll be as ready for it as we can be. Maybe it's not going to be enough, but we're working very hard to make sure the preparation level is as high as we can help it to be.
I have so many thoughts going through my head, but one of them is I used to teach a class about media, and we always had to assign this reading by Souza, Souza was the author, and it was, I forget the title, but I'm going to try to figure out and see if I can't put it in the chat. But it was about when mechanical music came into being, and how mechanical music was going to be the end, like kind of like a phonograph, basically, right? So mechanical music is going to be the end of all musicians. That's it. Musicians are being replaced. Nobody's ever going to want to see a band again. Nobody's going to ever, enjoy live music again, because you can have it on the recorder, so why bother? And we always assigned it in the class because we would then apply it to modern day technologies, and we would ask the students, so did that happen? Right, so here this technology came in, seems like it's going to replace live music, and did that happen? So it just made me think about that. And a lot of we have all these images of AI in terms of kind of the negativity, even as early as 1927, Metropolis came into, they had this movie Metropolis about, AI kind of, taking over, and a kind of dystopian future, destroying humanity. And even when Google Lens and face recognition technology, which I didn't realize was actually started, the origins of that are in like the 1960s, but Google Lens, I thought, oh God, face recognition technology, it terrifies me. Not that I'm committing any crimes, just the idea of it makes me nervous. Is it all bad, right? Is it really this dystopian future? Are we all so negative about it? And what I want to hear from you, we have like, 5 minutes left, not even, because I need to do my conclusion, but I want to hear from you. When has AI saved the day? Tell me your stories. When has AI saved the day? Whether for you personally, or
I could just say that one of the areas where I think AI has the most potential is in scientific discovery. AI, Peter mentioned DeepMind earlier. They've done tremendous work in discovering new elements, new chemicals, new compounds. Their AlphaFold program has predicted how proteins fold, like 200 million plus proteins, which they've open sourced, and millions of doctors are using it. It helped AI was contributed to the COVID vaccine. And it's one of the areas where I think, where humanity can clearly benefit from this technology, and something that, but I'll also say more generally, the part of the concern, and I know that this is something, Peter, who's very in touch with the AI safety world, it's if you have technology that can discover compounds for new drugs and new discoveries, then you could also use AI to create pathogens for which there are no cures. And so, but more general,
keep it optimistic, David.
No, I know, but more general. But here's my more general point: is that there are tremendous opportunities, and there are also potential harms. But the two are really hard to decouple because it's the same technology. At the end of the day, it's the same technology, just being used in different ways with different objectives by different people with different aims. And this is, again, gets back to the idea of AI is really about power. So if you really want a great case, I mean, I think education is potentially another great case. But again, and I think as Carie herself, mentioned, it's right under it's good under the right conditions. and extremely dangerous under the wrong conditions. So getting the conditions right is fun. It's just the fundamentally, an important thing to happen, but it's hard to get it to happen right now.
And Sanae, I was going to actually ask you. Yeah.
No, I think I just want to add to what David was saying is finding that balance between the technological progress and the technological responsibility, because it does not, they both go hand in hand if you think about it. So we do have, yes, in education, finally, I feel like the premise of customized education may be real right now, like what Carie was talking about, where it can be targeted to people with disabilities, for instance, right? People with different types of learning. So that's great. But then it comes with all of these hallucinations, with other things, with biases that we did not talk about. It's inflated with biases towards marginalized groups, right? So there is that. So I think ultimately, if we can find a way to balance these two, the responsibility and the progress in regulation and other ways, that might be helpful to us. This is said, I am still not clear about the whole sentient thing, but we're going to leave that to evolution, or we can call it evolution. So
great points. Appreciate it, and I'm sure from the as a teacher as well, but also in our own personal uses of technology, I know we've had conversations where you've had the technology kind of help you in wording and things like that. Do you know what I'm talking about today? I'm wondering if you can kind of speak to that as well, like as a positive use of the technology.
I think, to me personally, because I'm not a very good writer, however, this technology had helped me with editing. So just a quick anecdote, I used to write things down and, articles and send it to friends, send it to people who I pay a lot of money to edit my work. And I have lost some friends because they got tired of my grammatical mistakes. And that's why when ChatGPT came, it became instantly my friend, because I write and I have a companion that actually helps me once I write my stuff, and then it edits for me. So, and I ask it and interrogate it. Do you think this is better? Why do you think this is better? How can we do this? How can we have it? So in that sense, I, as a non-English speaker, who I know there are a whole bunch of people like me, it's helpful in that sense. It's helpful in a lot of different ways that we were incapable of realizing, and we can do it right now. So everybody can write right now. Before it was systematic.
Yeah, it's a great point. It levels the playing field. Right?
Yes.
It's great, and we're sadly out of time. I did want to mention that students seem to report that AI helps them, hopefully in positive ways in the classroom. So there's another kind of positive thing for it. And I did want to clarify my comment before that it's the menace of mechanical music, and I had the spelling wrong, but I put it in the chat. John Philip Sousa, Sousa. And it's fascinating to read that and then think about our technology today. I really recommend you all reading it. It's not that long. So wonderful to have you all here. And I'm glad you folks dropped in names of some really important people in the AI world that folks can kind of look up more later. And so many important topics that we discussed. I want to thank Tyler for serving tech for us. Thank you for our absolutely wonderful panelists for being here, all your insights. Feel free, if there's anything you absolutely had to get out of your system that you haven't told us yet, throw some things in the chat real quick. And we have one more thing in the chat. Gloria said, I think the use of AI must be handled responsibly in educational institutions, businesses, governments, etc. Ethical regulation should be applied to various AI applications to prepare students and utilize them with a thorough analysis, avoiding biases and hallucinations. I'm going to look up that word. Thank you for that, Gloria, as well. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We hope you enjoyed this hallucinations. Maybe that was it. So we hope you enjoyed this discussion, and we'll help spread the word about kind of AI and some of the things we talked about today. There's a lot of values that we associate with AI. Some of them, are actually good. Things like efficiency, and they provide solutions, and it's all about innovation and learning and creation. And so there's a lot of good to be had there, but certainly, as Gloria tells us, a lot to be cautioned about. And as our panelists have said as well, we will send out a video and our infographic at the end after this presentation, sometime within the next few days. Check for it in spam if you don't find it. And we encourage you to share that. We never consider our topics kind of one and done. You came to our event, that's it. That's all you need to know. We want to always have you learning. So coming here to get informed about this topic is one great way to start. Or to continue your learning. We'd love you to kind of look up some of the folks that people mentioned in our chat, in our discussion today, but also folks like Isaac Asimov, Lila Ibrahim, Stephanie Dinkins, Ted Lieu, and Sam Altman, which somebody mentioned as well. So you can look up some of those names. We encourage you to explore AI, play around with it, check it out, let your curiosity take over rather than your kind of fear of it. Explore it and see what it helps. We didn't talk a lot about prompts, which I'm shocked at, but look up information about prompts and the right kind of prompts and how to use prompts more effectively. It is not the same thing as a Google search, to be sure. You just don't use, and I learned that from David actually, you don't use AI the way you use Google. You have to use different prompts. We encourage you also to challenge AI systems. So, don't take what they say for granted. Ask them follow-up questions. Make sure they're actually telling you all of the information. It really is an iterative process, as Sanae helped to explain as well. So be careful of that. Sometimes what AI will spit back to you are these hallucinations, maybe stereotypes. So be careful and make sure you're challenging your AI. Check out Sanae's book, check out Peter's nonprofit. We'll send you that email. In the email, there's going to be a survey for you to let us know what you thought about this event. Please fill that out. I'm going to ask you now also just take a minute. I know we're running a little late. Take a minute to fill out a poll, which hopefully Tyler is going to throw up if they haven't already. And so take that right now. The questions in the email are not going to be the same as are in this poll that you're getting right now. So we encourage you to do both. Look into and learn more about Inform Your Community and all the wonderful events. I think we still have like 15 more events that are on our website you can sign up for. Lots of different things that we do. So please, we encourage you, not just this Know It All program, but we have craft nights and game nights and movie nights, all kinds of fun things. So check us out at www.informyourcommunity.org. And our events are free. But we always encourage donations, so feel free to click on that donate button on our website as well. And our next event is a popcorn and chat event on intersectionality, and what that is a movie night. We're going to be watching a movie called We Are the Radical Monarchs and talking about intersectionality. If you don't know what that means, even more reason you should come to that event and learn about it. That's going to be on February 1st at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Also free, hope you will join. Also virtual. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to our absolutely amazing panelists. All kinds of kudos to them. Thank you for our audience. What a great discussion. We hope to have you folks back for future events. This was really so powerful and so interesting. Thank you all.
Thank you, Stacey.
And I was on the curriculum committee, and I still feel like I'm down here and it's up there, and
It's just so much to learn, right? There's just
so much to learn. You guys were great. You folks were really good. So thank you so much.
And we got some positive feedback in here. Pat says, thanks for an enlightening and thoughtful program. Gloria says, excellent contributions from all the panelists. So thank you all for coming. Greg said, thanks again. I hope it was worth coming from Australia. I don't know what time it is there. But thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it. And I look forward to keeping in touch and seeing where your work progresses.